Hello, hello. My name is Jason Allen. I am a realtor based in Palm Springs, California, and I like to do weekly reports that go over the desert market housing report. And I have to be frank, I have not done it in a few weeks. I've not been well. I'm better now, and I've been working on some other projects. So I apologize for those of you that typically tune in. I'm going to do all four cities that I focus on in this little bit longer. I focus on Palm Springs, Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, and Palm Desert. Now, I do sell outside of those areas, but those are where I concentrate. Stand by, I'm going to bring up the chart. For those of you that are not familiar with the Coachella Valley, we have Desert Hot Springs at the north, Palm Springs, Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage. Thousand Palms over here on the east side of the 10 freeway, which is this. Palm Desert, Indian Wells, La Quinta, Bermuda Dunes, Indio, and Coachella. And if you are familiar with coming in off the 10, hitting the 111, this is the 111 here as it comes through. It is the old highway. And then if you fly in, here's the airport right in here. Now that you have your bearings, let's move on. All right. There's no way to sugarcoat this. Our sales are down and our inventory is up. The good news is prices, while off a bit, are not off dramatically. Uh, we are likely to continue to see some slipping before the election. And, people will disagree with me, but as I've said in these videos before, between now and November 6th or 3rd, the election day, uh, eh, half of the country is going to be elated, half of the country is going to be very upset. And at least once we're past that point, those that are thinking about a move can breathe a sigh of relief and then they can start making plans. So, looking at that, if we have our baseline here, you can see during COVID, we were way above that. We've been slipping. We're not at the same point as we were in, like, say, February of 23. We're approaching it. I think we're going to hold our own. And I'm going to have a link to this so you can go through it all on your own. When we say the Coachella Valley median detached home price, and things are broken up into detached and attached very frequently, Coachella Valley is that 9 cities that I read off in the very beginning, and you saw the map. So the median is the middle price versus the average, which is taking all the numbers, adding them up, and dividing by the total number that we added together. Median is right in the middle. Half sold above, half sold below. You can see that over time, what this chart is demonstrating is that we've had 5.5% growth over the last 21 or 4 years, 23, 24 years. And at present, our median this month compared to last month has slipped a little bit. $5,000, it's real money. It's not 50,000. And then for the attached, so these would be your townhomes, condominiums, versus your single family dwellings, inside or outside of an HOA, by the way, and fee land and tribal land or leased land. Those are all mixed up into here, and they influence actual price. But just to get a sense of comparing the same thing month after month, we get these longitudinal charts. And you can see here, slipped 5 grand again. All right. In this chart, we're looking more at the average and we're breaking it down into detached and attached. And why they reverse the order is beyond me, but I don't create these reports. The 4 cities that I focus on, I've put check marks next to. You can see, and here what they're taking is what an average size home is, what an average price per square foot, what the average selling amount is, comparing that to a year ago. And you can see that in Rancho Mirage, we've got a 12-month positive change of 11.5%. And from the very lowest in the 11-12 market, it's 180 almost. However, if we skip down, or I should say Palm Desert, very similar, positive territory, not quite as much, but still positive territory. And that's true for Cathedral City. But when we get down into Palm Springs, we can see we've had 6.1% slip. The attached version, these are your condos, townhouses, that sort of thing. Palm Springs saw a 2.5% year-over-year gain. That's up 250% basically from the very low. If you happen to buy a condo for 129,788 as the average, you were still holding that today. Your average price 453,900. That's significant. A year ago it was 442, 725. So positive territory. And then with respect to these other markets, now looking at Desert Hot Springs on the very bottom, 11.8% off. We're all within a margin. It's not dramatic. So that's a good news, right? Positive. And there's a reason for that, which I'll get to in a little bit. Unit dollar sales. So for detached and attached over a 3-month average, you can see that our sales are down. We've kind of on this trajectory. Again, I attribute a lot of this to higher interest rates and political turmoil. It just upsets people left and right. And then a 12-month average, we seem to be a bit more stable. So averages can be misleading. If it To me, this is a more indicative trend on the quarterly basis, whereas you see that gets smoothed out when you start looking at it over 12 months. All right. Actual home sales by city. And these are the 4 cities that I work on. You can see every single one of them down. Fewer sales. Now, some might say that it's summer, we're always going to have fewer sales. Not always true. As I say to folks, if you have an open house and people are coming in and it's 120 degrees out, they're not just out killing a Sunday afternoon. They're there to look at the property for some specific reason. They may be looking to buy a house. They may be looking on behalf of a friend. They may be wanting to sell their house and see what the competition looks like. And then we go down to sales by price bracket. These are some newer charts, very helpful. And this is really geared towards someone who knows that they can spend X. I'm going to be able to spend between 5 and 599,000. I get a sense of what sales are like in that price bracket. If you're on a border, you might choose the price bracket where there are fewer sales because it would suggest that the sellers are hungrier to make a deal. You can dive into this. I don't know when you're watching this what your price bracket is. You can see that it's at the 300 and below where sales actually ticked up slightly. So that's something. Down here is the Coachella Valley dollar sales. Now, I got a little confused earlier, but essentially, this is in millions of dollars. Again, another indication that we have sold fewer homes compared to a year ago. We're not quite at the low point that we went into in 23. So that's positive, but it is a downward trajectory. Now, some of that is a reflection of lower prices in the marketplace. I'll talk about that in a chart below. Now, this is dollar sales by city. Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, Palm Springs, Palm Desert, each have had less total dollar sales when you aggregate all of the properties that have sold, both attached and detached, vacant land as well. Anything that's residential, not commercial. Dollar sales by price bracket. So this is using the previous charts data, but blending it or dicing it, if you will, by price bracket. Why do we do this? This just gives us a benchmark against which we can see how we're doing. And at the moment, these don't look as bad in these 4 areas that I have focused on. If you look at the $1 to basically $2 million price range, we're selling fewer of those homes. So if that's where you're going to come on the market, and keep in mind, that's a full $1 million bracket. We don't tend to dice them the way we do below $1 million. Fewer homes, but you can see the sales are off, almost 21 million. And then we go into our overall inventory, all homes across the valley. So our high water mark, our most recent high water mark in 19 pre-COVID. And here we are today. So you can see our inventory is increasing, but this downward trajectory shows that it had actually been falling for a while. So now we're ticked up a little bit. We're nowhere near this where we would have listings that would be on for months on end, a year, you'd sign a listing agreement. We're not seeing that quite yet. Now, inventory by city, in the 4 cities I've identified here, you can see across the board inventory is up. Coachella, slightly, much smaller market. Bermuda Dunes, almost double. Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert, Palm Springs, significant increases across the board. So from a buyer's perspective, that means you have more selection. From a seller's perspective, that means you have more competition. Keep that in mind as you go into the marketplace. And then if we look at inventory by price bracket, this is again a very good tool so you understand if I'm in the over $1 million, I got a lot to look at. Almost 90 properties, more than I did a year ago. That's a lot. It is a lot. Uh, but also across the board, you see them all until you maybe get into this 9 to 1 million. Not quite as dramatic of a uptick in inventory. And then months of sales by ratio. I've just circled these to just see year over year where we stand, an increase. And then months of sales by city. This is if we had no additional inventory in that city. This is how long it would take theoretically to sell everything that's on the shelf. Palm Springs, 5 months. Now, we tend to say that if you have 6 months of inventory, you're in a balanced market. I will tell you, for many sellers, it feels like a buyer's market. People coming through the door and not pulling the trigger. So if you are thinking about selling, be prepared for a longer sales cycle. And if you're looking to buy, don't be confused by a property that is really a great price, assuming that it's going to be on the market forever. I just had a listing a month ago, sold very quickly. I've referred to that before, 3 offers in just a few days. It happens. Buyers that have been looking at property for a while understand and recognize something that is a good value. That's assuming they have an agent that can also guide them and explain that it's a good value. By the way, buyers, you are going to be paying your buyer's agent unless the seller is willing to compensate your agent on your behalf. That will be included in your offer. Months of sales by price bracket. Again, if you're over $2 million, you are definitely in a balanced market. That's going to be a long haul. Likewise, you're pushing it over here. In this, same thing, 5.1 might as well be 6 in a lot of ways. And then we get down here, median days on market. So this is looking at half the properties were higher, half the properties were lower. Again, the point is we are increasing the number of days on market across the board. And then if you want to go by city, and this is combining both attached and detached, you can look at this chart. And then median by price. And then last chart I think I want to check in on is this one. Average selling discount by city. Now, actually, there's one more after this. Here's the thing. What's misleading about this is that it is the reference point is the last price shown in the MLS for a property as compared to what its sales price is. When I list a property, just like all agents, you put in a price. You may have discounts along the way. And then at some point, there's a price when a buyer makes an offer. And then when the deal closes, we take that final negotiated price and we put that in the system. And those are the two numbers that are being compared. This does not take into consideration where a property started if they've had any sort of price reductions. So, and this is on average. So what this should tell you is that if a property is priced right, there might be a tiny adjustment of 1% or -4%. I don't know what that's doing on this chart, but -4% all the way up, excuse me, a 0.4% all the way to -4 point. So 4% as your maximum that's coming off in Bermuda dues. Between those two delta or two the delta between those 2 points, but it may have started at a much higher price point. That's just important to keep in mind. If a property has not had a price reduction and it's been on the market for a long time, that means one of two things. One, the seller is committed to their price. You're not going to get a discount other than a little bit. Or two, that seller has not recognized the market has moved and they don't have an agent that's able to communicate to them that information. The agent may be saying it, but maybe they need to get another offer that's lower than asking price to really budge them. This is where your buyer's agent is going to communicate with the listing agent, say like, hey, have you had any offers? Oh, you've had offers, great. Have they been at asking, below asking? Where are they? And a good agent will say, yeah, they've all been under. The seller is stuck on their price. Great, good information. You can now set your expectations. And then this is the average selling price per discount bracket. So if you look at properties, if you get over the 2 million, you're getting 6% off. You're under 3, you're getting 5% off. The rest of these, 1, 2, 3, these are closing cost numbers. Now, those are averages that I was just talking about. Here's important information. 13.2% of the homes are selling above the asking price. So again, that's what sort of keeps these down in the nibblies. But you got to keep that in mind as you work on this. That's the end of the report. I tried to go through it as quickly as possible. When I do these all-in-ones, they get a little longer. I apologize. Thanks for participating. Don't hesitate to reach out with questions. I will have some changes coming up between now and the end of the year. So stay tuned. Subscribe and like if you like this, and I will always respond to remarks down below. Take care. Bye.